The big story this week, of course, coming on Wednesday, is the Rachel Reeves budget. Now, she is going to announce all kinds of new restrictions on your ability to do what you want with your own money. She's going to tell people that she wants to be in control because she was so well qualified to be Chancellor because she worked at the Bank of England. It turns out that she was slightly, shall we say, economical with the truth about the fact that she was an economist. It turns out she wasn't an economist at the Bank of England. In fact, she was an administrative assistant by the looks of it. Nothing wrong with that. But why lie about it? What's the point? Let's talk to Tom Hunt, former Conservative MP. Tom, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Nice to talk to you. Let me start with Keir Starmer, if I may. Here he is trying to establish once again and trying to explain once again what he thinks a working person is.
And I think everybody watching this will know whether they're in this category, because you carry in that situation a sort of knot in the bottom of the stomach, which is if push comes to shove and something happens to me and my family, I can't just get a chequebook out, even though I've maybe got a bit of saving. But they're the people that in a way, I came into politics to try and make sure they had secure jobs, didn't have the anxiety of public services not working, and felt genuinely better off with better opportunities. That's what I have in my mind's eye.
OK, so for someone who works but gets their income from assets as well, such as shares of property, are they a working person? Well,
they wouldn't come within my definition.
So their taxes could go up?
Yeah, I mean, you can probably give me any number of examples.
There's a kind of arrogance about him, Tom, which I find particularly unappealing. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But, you know, it's a tricky one for me, because on the one hand, you know, as a former Conservative MP who's, you know, was beaten soundly by Labour and was concerned about Labour being in power for almost a decade, it politically, in a way, it's, you know, seeing them making such a hash of it and thinking, actually, we might be able to come back in the next election. But actually, you know, this is our country. And I think the level of incompetence we're seeing from the Labour government is really quite shocking. And I mean, this stuff of the budget about, you know, the fiddling rules on debt. I mean, I was talking to a friend who works in finance yesterday. He was saying that this could be like a Labour version of a mini budget if they're not careful. This ridiculous thing about trying to ban smoking in pub gardens, you know, the list goes on. And how embarrassing. You were just mentioning how Starmer's in Samoa, Lammy's in... I mean, Lammy wins the prize, in my view, for being the worst in Cabinet. You know, these people are out at the moment representing our country. It's not a great situation, is it?
It really isn't. And, I mean, everything they do seems to turn into something which we can't really describe at this time of the morning on a decent broadcasting channel. But, you know, at least they're U-turning on the pub garden smoking ban, because apparently they've worked out that it's not very popular. Well, then in that case, if that's their criteria for U-turning, well, they should U-turn on the pension fuel allowance. They should U-turn on the pay rises they're giving to undeserving public sector workers. And they should also U-turn on the idea that they're now going to tax everyone who's got any kind of savings and any kind of house or any kind of mortgage at all.
Well, the thing about the pub gardens is, yes, after a rightful outcry, they've shelved that plan to ban smoking in pub gardens. But I think the very fact that they were contemplating it, I mean, it tells you all about the instincts of this government. Yeah. Their desire to control, to interfere in the private lives of people, and, you know, and also their lack of political instinct. I mean, it was always going to cause uproar or anything to do with pub gardens, the impact that was going to have on the finances of the pub sector. There was always going to be a concerted campaign from the British Pub Association, etc., and CAMRA. That was always going to happen. So the lack of political instinct, but also their instincts to try to control our lives, try to interfere in things, has got nothing to do with them. So, yes, they have gone back on that, but it would only be a few weeks into the next crazy idea. They're looking to undermine our liberties. So, you know, I don't take too much from that.
No, but this is the thing. I mean, they come out every week with some nonsense, right? It seems a lot longer ago, but I think it was only last week that Wes Streeting, who vowed to fix the NHS as soon as he got into power, which he hasn't managed to do at all. In fact, if anything, the waiting lists have got longer. It was only a week ago he was promising billions and billions of NHS money to give fat jabs to people because, you know, he thought it would get them back to work. You know, it's almost like a sort of throw something against the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And looking at, you know, Keir Starmer trying to, you know, tie himself in knots over these people saying that, you know, we should be paying reparations through a British Empire, you know, and instead of just being completely clear and unequivocal and saying, look, this is total bloody nonsense, we're not entertaining this for a second, we're proud of our country's history, we ended slavery, go and get lost, and actually, if you're Barbados, perhaps think about your relationship with China in the present.
Yes.
You know, we're not hearing that from him. He's tying himself in knots because he kind of knows he can't go along with the reparations, but at the same time, he just want to upset the lefties in his party.
Yeah.
It's a complete embarrassment. And also this situation with the police officer who has been, you know, dragged through the court system for essentially trying to protect his colleagues by shooting a gangster. I mean, what was that about? And again, the Labour Party tying themselves in knots over that, giving away the Chagos Islands, you know, abandoning Israel. I mean, you know, at both domestic and a foreign level, I'm embarrassed that this government is representing our country that we both care about so deeply. And we've got to, as a Conservative Party, get our act together, get ourselves organised and win the next general election.
Yeah, I think there's every chance that you can do that because, I mean, even, again, there's literally a scandal a day, practically. I mean, this week's one was Labour staff going over to America to help Kamala Harris supposedly beat Donald Trump. I mean, to be honest, if I was working with the Democrats, I'd say, you know, you might have been good at winning elections, but we'd rather not have anything to do with you, thanks, because since you've been in power, you're not actually doing very well. Kemi Badenoch actually said to me when I interviewed her last week, something very prescient. She said, you know, we were not ready for an election, they were not ready for government. And I think that's right.
Look, yeah, she's absolutely right, and I will say on this, you know, that I'm backing Robert Jenrick to be the next leader, but it's also my view that we've got the two strongest candidates in the final two. You will not hear me running down Kemi Badenoch. You know, we've got two strong candidates, and actually, I feel confident that whether it's Rob or whether it's Kemi, you know, it's going to be a significant improvement for the Conservative Party. We're going to have somebody who's a true believer in Conservative values as our leader, and I think we can take the fight to Starmer.
And what do you say to those who worry now that the Conservative... I mean, I'm not one of them, by the way, that the Conservative Party has only got two sort of relatively right-wing candidates left in the race, that, you know, the James Cleverleys of this world have departed these shores, and, you know, that means that the Tories will never get back into power. I don't go along with that, do you?
I know, it's a ridiculous argument. I mean, I actually, when I think Cleverley was knocked out of the contest, I had a couple of friends who are on the sort of One Nation end of the party who messaged me to say, oh, this is appalling, we haven't got one of our candidates for the final two. And I said, well, it's not our fault. You basically had a candidate who was in the final two and you've blown him up because you thought you'd be clever with tactical voting. So that wasn't really our fault. But ultimately, you know, James is a really good bloke, but I think that, you know, it's really clear the direction we've got to take. And even in seats where the Conservative Party lost to the Liberals, you know, not the simplistic view is, oh, you know, we lost to the Liberals, we've got to move more in a more liberal direction. Total rubbish. The reason why we lost those seats is because good, reliable Conservative voters, often for the first time in their life, stayed at home or voted Reform. So we've got to give, you know, there's enough small C Conservative voters around the country, spread around the country quite efficiently in different seats, for us to galvanise those voters, to get them over a line and to vote Conservative. And I'm actually pretty confident that both of you candidates would do it. Look, it was a marginal decision for me. I went with Rob. I thought he was more explicit on things like the ECHR, and I'm really impressed with him. But I'm not going to say that Kemi isn't a strong candidate, because she is as well. So, look, I mean, I'm the sort of person, I want what's best for the party. I want the two strongest candidates in the final two. I don't want a weak candidate up against the candidate I'm backing. I want the two best candidates in. And look, it makes it a bit awkward for me in a way, because I like both of them. But, you know, we are where we are. We're going to get a good leader.
OK, good stuff. Tom, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Tom Hunt, former Conservative MP there.